woke this morning to the news of the passing of Greg Ham, who was featured on that recording Down Under as the group Men at Work. Our rock historian, Ken Francis, is with us, and he's just come from the Cold Chisel concert.
Evening, Bruce and Phil.
How was that tonight?
Fantastic. Yeah, they are amazing, Cold Chisel. They would have to be this country's best-loved rock and roll band. Haven't played together for many a year until they reformed last year. Did a huge, in fact, one of the biggest Australian tours of all time. And tonight, a one-off show at my favourite venue in the whole world, Festival Hall.
Oh, really?
The greatest place to go and see a concert you could ever get.
Has that changed much over the years?
A few cosmetic changes inside, and I guess to keep up with OH&S and fire safety regulations and that type of thing, but it's still pretty much the original Festival Hall.
It holds a good amount of people? Good crowd?
It would hold over 5,000 easily.
Oh, gee, that's good. All right, to Greg Ham now. Did you know him? Or
I had met him, luckily, a number of times, and I think, as everyone's been saying tonight, just a lovely guy, had that grin that would light up a room. And in fact, you mentioned Men at Work, of which he was part, and I have to say, having seen Men at Work live, and this is something that a lot of people have said, they weren't exactly the most entertaining band you could ever see. In fact, when they played on the 1983 Countdown Rock Awards, Skyhooks had reformed at that stage and also appeared on that show, and Shirley Strawn made the point that Skyhooks were the band that came on and entertained the audience. Greg Ham in Men at Work was possibly the guy who was the focal point other than lead singer Colin Hay, because Greg Ham was the funny guy on stage, apart from being a multi-instrumentalist. And I mean, Men at Work it is often forgotten. I guess they're best remembered for that song that we just played, Down Under. But they are the only, not only the only Australian band, but possibly one of the only acts in the world to ever have a #1 album and single simultaneously in the US and the UK.
Goodness.
And this was a band from Melbourne that did this.
That's amazing.
They held the record until recently for the longest standing #1 debut album in America. They had 16 weeks at #1 with their debut album, which beat the 15-week record set by the Monkees in the 60s.
Gee, that's incredible.
So
with what song?
With their album Business as Usual.
You said that the plagiarism, is that what's the word?
Yes, that's the word.
The plagiarism of Kookaburra sits in the old gum tree. That affected him, that worried him?
It did. Colin Hay wrote the song Down Under before Greg Ham even joined Men at Work. That song was written in about 1978. So Greg Ham added that little flute piece when the song came to be recorded by Men at Work. And he just basically ad-libbed this section of music. And of course, as we know, just a few years ago, up came the case with Larrikin Music, the people who now own that 1930 song Kookaburra Sits in the Old Gum Tree, claiming after it was featured on Spicks and Specks, Spicks and Specks noticed a similarity and pinpointed it on their program. Larrikin Music thought, okay, we're onto something here, and took the publishers and the writers of that song to court, saying that basically you've plagiarised that song. And of course, Greg Ham, being the person who improvised that flute piece, he was dreadfully upset. In fact, quoted in The Age, he did an interview with The Age about 18 months ago, where he said he was deeply saddened that he is going to be best remembered for allegedly copying something.
Phil, would it be right after 50 years a copyright is non-existent?
I thought it would be out of royalties after such a long period. You know, we're talking about 80 years here almost.
Yeah, I was always under that impression, but I guess Larrikin Music had again bought the rights and reinvested in that song.
Yeah, Kookaburra Sits on the Old Gum Tree is more a traditional song, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, it was only when it was pointed out, when that court case came up, that I could hear those similarities.
Yes.
But until then, I had never noticed it.
And do you think that affected Greg's mental health, for example?
Apparently, and as I say, he was quoted in The Age as saying he was deeply upset, and friends who have known him closely have said it deeply troubled him that someone would basically accusing him of ripping something else off. He hadn't done it, and of course, when a court case goes against you, you know, it's pretty much front page news,
and can take you to the cleaners too financially.
Absolutely.
Well, Ken Francis, thank you very much for coming back and giving your little your memories, and salute to Greg Ham, who passed away this morning.
Yes, you have an encyclopedic knowledge, Ken, of rock and roll.
Thank you, boys.
Thank you, Ken Francis.